welcome to Rainy Day Crochet. Today I'm going to show you how I made this winter inspired banner. This is a great project if you're just getting into crochet and you want to make something a little more exciting, maybe some simple home decor. I made this in less than a day. It's way less than a day. I made this in a couple of hours, so very simple to do and very fun. Just a nice project to kind of bring some winter energy to your home. So I hope you enjoy it. I will say this project is also really good if you're trying to get rid of some scrap yarn. I had yarn that I used in a previous project that I didn't know what to do with, so I decided to make this with it, and I really like how it turned out. If you decide to make this yourself, make sure to tag me in any photos that you post at _rainydaycrochet, just so I can see it. I would love to see if you guys decide to make this along with me, and I hope you enjoy. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so for this project, you will need some yarn of your choosing. It can be any weight, any kind, any color, anything that reminds you of winter. You will need a crochet hook. I'm using a 5.5mm, but you can just use whatever crochet hook works for the yarn that you have. You'll need some scissors, and then you'll need a yarn needle. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the flags that will go on the banner. This is one I've already made, and I'm going to show you how to do this. I'll go step by step so that you can follow along and do it yourself. And I'm going to make 2 of these, so one more, and let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a slip knot. I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail, that way we can weave in our ends later. Not too long though. So I'll make a little loop, take my working yarn, push it through, and then pull tight. And then I can adjust this, insert my hook, and then pull that so that it's, relatively snug, but not too tight. It can still move around. And I'm going to chain 16. You can make the flag however big you want, just make sure that you chain an even number, because we want an odd number of stitches. So you can make it 18 chains, 20, 22, so on. You get the point. You can make it smaller as well as if you want. Just make sure that you have an even chain, an even number of chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, so there are my 16 chains, and I'm just going to work a single crochet in every single one, starting in the second chain from the hook. So here's the first chain. I'm going to start in the second chain. I'm going to insert my hook, grabbing the top loop, and then to single crochet, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And I'll show that again. So I insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And I'll just continue that until the end of the row. Okay, so I'm just finishing off single crochet in the last chain. I'm going to chain 1 and then turn my work. So I have my first row done. I'm just going to repeat, and if you're new to crochet you might be confused about this, but one stitch, you see those 2 strands that make a little V, not this one, that's our chain, we don't want to work into that. So this is our first stitch right here, the 2 V's right here, or the 1 V right here. I'm going to insert my hook under both loops. So try to show you. I have both loops on my hook, and I'm just going to single crochet again. So yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And I'm going to continue that across the entire row. Alright, so I'm working my last single crochet. This one's always a little bit tricky just because of the chain foundation. Okay, so single crochet, and then I'm going to chain 1 again, and I'm going to turn my work. So now I have 2 rows done, and I'm going to continue. I'm going to repeat single crochets in every single stitch until I finish row 11. And make sure to count your stitches if you're new. Count your stitches every once in a while, so count each of the little V's excluding the chain. So make sure you have, if you're following along with me, make sure you have 15. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 right there at the end. So make sure that you have 15 stitches and it stays as even as possible. And once you finish row 11, you can come back and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so I finished my 11 rows of single crochet, and now we're going to start to decrease in order to make the point of the flag. So I'll show you very slowly how I do this, just so if you're new, you don't get too confused. It takes a little bit of practice, so don't be dismayed if you don't get it right away. Just keep trying, and I promise you'll get it eventually. So I'm going to decrease down the sides so that it creates an even decrease. So I'm going to start and end every row by single crocheting 2 together. So to single crochet 2 together, you would start as you would a regular single crochet. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. Now instead of yarning over and pulling through these 2 loops, you're going to immediately insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up another loop. So now you should have 3, and now you yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So that's how you single crochet 2 together. So I'll show you one more time. So you insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, go into the next stitch, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And you did it. Alright, so now up until the last 2 stitches, we're just going to single crochet normally. Okay, so I've single crocheted 11, and including our decrease stitch, I have 12 so far. So I'm going to single crochet the last 2 stitches together. So once again, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, go into the last stitch, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, you have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And then as we did before, chain 1 and turn. And now we're going to repeat that. So in the first 2 stitches, we're going to single crochet together. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3. And so you see we have 1 stitch where there were once 2 stitches. So that's how you decrease. And then I'm going to single crochet normally in the next 9 stitches. I'm at the last 2 now, and I'm going to single crochet together, single crochet 2 together. So insert my hook, yarn over, insert my hook in the next stitch, yarn over, pull through all 3. And then I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And then I'm going to repeat again. So insert my hook, yarn over, insert my hook in the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, and then I'll single crochet in the next 7. As you can see, I'm going to run out of yarn. Okay, so I'm at the last 2, and just repeat what we've been doing. So single crochet the last 2 stitches together, and then chain 1 and turn, and just repeat. So each time you should have two less stitches than you did in the row before. Okay, single crochet 2 together, and chain 1 and turn. We're almost there. As you can see, we've started to create that little taper towards the center. I mean, if you wanted to, you could stop here, but I like the point at the end. Okay, just keep repeating. Single crochet the first 2 together, single crochet until you reach the last 2 stitches, and then single crochet the last 2 stitches together. Chain 1 and turn. Chain 1 and turn. And now we're coming towards the end, so same deal, single crochet the first 2 together, single crochet into the last stitch of the row, and now this is the tricky part, and I have maybe just enough yarn. This is some scrap yarn that I have from a previous project. So instead of chaining 1 and turning, I'm going to just turn without chaining 1. And this, I honestly don't know the name of this stitch, slip stitch together. I'm not sure, but I'll show you what I do very slowly and multiple times. So I turned my work, so I finished single crochet 2 together, and then I just single crocheted in the last stitch. I turned, did not chain, so I insert my hook through the front of 1 stitch, and then insert my hook through the back of the 2nd stitch. I yarn over, and I pull through, and then I just slip stitch. And then I'll just chain and then pull the yarn through, but I'll show you one more time, because I know that can be a little bit confusing, especially since I don't know the name of the stitch, so I apologize for that. But insert my hook through the front, insert my hook through the back, so I have both stitches forming kind of like a V almost. I yarn over, pull through, and then for slip stitching, normally we would yarn over, for a single crochet we would yarn over and pull through both of these loops. For a slip stitch, you're literally just pulling the loop that you just pulled up under the 2nd loop on your hook, so like that. And then I yarn over and pull the yarn through. And look at that, I had just enough to create my 2nd flag. So that was totally planned. I totally meant to do that. And there's our little flag. So congrats, you did it. You made a little flag. And I'll show you how to weave in your ends, and then we'll move on to our next step. Okay, so to weave in our ends, we need to use our yarn needle, and I'll thread my yarn through the needle, and then I pick a side that I'm going to have facing towards the back. Since this is going to be hung up on a wall, doesn't matter if the ends don't look as pretty as, say, in a garment or something like that. So I will turn it over, and I don't necessarily like how pointy I don't like how pointy this is, So I actually kind of pull it down by weaving down the center. To weave in your ends, you literally just there's no rhyme or reason to it that I know of. I try to go, if I'm trying to make it neat like a blanket or something, I usually go back and forth in the actual rows. For this one it doesn't really matter, so I just go in between stitches, just wherever I see a loop, and I just pull the yarn through. So now we have more of a dull point instead of that weird pointy point that it had. Great use of words there. And then I just keep weaving the ends into whatever loops I can see, just making sure that it doesn't poke through the front, otherwise it's gonna look funky. So I'll just do that, and just a few times, just so that it doesn't unravel. No rhyme or reason, like I said. Just make sure that it doesn't tug on your work so that the sides are still even, and then once you feel like you've done enough, like I said, this is just going to be hanging on a wall, it's not going to be washed or anything, so you can just snip the end, and then I kind of just tag on the stitches a little bit so that the end kind of just disappears and you can't see where it is. Voila. And then do that for the tail that we left at the beginning. And there we go. So I'll just snip the tail here. And second flag is finished. So now I have two. Okay, so the next thing I want to make are some pom-poms to put on the banner. And I'm using this kind of, it's like a shimmery kind of yarn that has blues and whites in it, and I thought that that looked very wintry in my opinion. I don't know, for some reason winter always reminds me of the color blue. So I'm gonna make some pom-poms out of it, and I apologize, I have no idea where this yarn is from. It's probably like I don't know, it's probably like 12 years old at this point. Maybe you can see it better like that. So to make a pom-pom, all I'm gonna do is wrap the yarn around my pom, many times. That way it makes a nice puffy pom-pom. So I'll place it across my palm. I'll kind of use my thumb at first to hold it down, and I'll just wrap it around and around, and then eventually you can move your thumb and then go pretty quickly and just keep wrapping it. Okay, so I think that's probably enough. As you can see, my fingers are turning a different color from my hands, so I think that's probably a good place to stop. So just carefully slip this off of your hand, or if you're smarter than me and you're using something that's not your hand, just slip it off of there, and then just snip the yarn. I'm going to cut a pretty long tail so that I can sew this onto my banner. I'm using a yarn needle to keep the place of all the loops, that way it's easier to cut afterwards. And I'm just going to lay that on top of my string, and I'm going to adjust this so that I have a longer tail on one side. And then I'm going to tie this around the entire yarn bundle, and I'm going to pull that super tight. And then I will carefully flip this over, pull it tight again, and then I'm going to tie a knot on this side. You want to make sure that it's as center as possible. I probably could have done a better job, but that's okay. And then I'm gonna bloop, pull that as tight as I can as well. If you have more delicate yarn though, be careful, otherwise it's gonna tear. And then I will double knot it and triple knot. And then I will just leave that end there. So I will kind of pull apart where the yarn needle is, insert my scissors, and then pull up so that the scissors are center, holding this side so that it doesn't move, and then cut, 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 cut through all the loops. Okay? So that side is cut. Now it's time for the other side, which is going to be a little bit trickier. Should have used another yarn needle. Okay, I think I got all of the loops, and if this is looking super wonky, the middle section, try to just kind of shimmy it down so that it's in the center, and then it doesn't look like a pom-pom, I know. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna just kind of mix it all together and fluff it up with your hands. So what you're gonna do to make it even is just kind of trim around. And obviously, this would go a lot better if you have a pom-pom maker, but I don't. So this is my method. And don't cut your tail. Just make sure not to cut the tail. Just keep trimming until it looks, you know, good to you. Not gonna be perfect, since this was made by hand and not a pom-pom maker, but that's okay. Okay, so there's my pom-pom. I'm pretty happy with it. It'll look cute on the little banner. And I know my mom is cringing at this. Yeah, sorry, Mom. Just make sure not to cut the tail. Just make sure not to cut the tail. I cut the tail. Dang it. Okay, so you want to cut 3 very long pieces of yarn. I cut mine about 50 inches. You can make it as long as you want, as short as you want. You could even make even more pom-poms. You could add tassels, you could add paper snowflakes, like you could make literally anything and add whatever you want that reminds you of winter. But I'm keeping mine about the same size as my fall one, so about 50 inches should do the trick. So I have 3 strands, and I'm going to tie them together. And I was going to use gray yarn, but I changed my mind because that's boring. So might as well use this pretty yarn that I have. Then you want to use something heavy to weigh it down. I'm just using my water bottle. And you're just going to braid, a regular braid, until you reach the end. Ugh. This yarn is going to get very tangled. I can feel it already. So before I start sewing things to the main strand, I kind of lay it all out so that I can see what it looks like, and I'm happy with how it looks. So I'm going to start sewing each piece to the main strand, and I'm going to start with this pom-pom in the middle. That way the rest of it is kind of evenly spaced out. So I folded my main strand in half, so I know the pom-pom is going to go there. And I'm just going to go in between both strands with my yarn needle, pull through, and then flipping this kind of upside down, pull tightly and find that center strand again of the pom-pom, and then I'll insert my yarn needle, pull through, and then I will double knot that. Pull it tight. Alright, there's the first one done. And then I will snip this, not too short, but about the same length as the rest of the little fluffy part on the pom-pom. So I'll attach one of the flags next. And it's easiest if you have something on the end here. So leaving enough space for the pom-pom next to it, we're just going to go through the chain stitches. So through the chain, we're going to pull a big tail. Snip that, and then we'll tie that onto the flag. Not too tightly, but tight enough that it'll stay. And then we're going to sew this onto the main strand. So I'm just going through the chain and around the strand. Whoop. Okay, and then just adjust this so it's in the position that you want it to be in. So kind of measure. That's about good for me. So then to keep it from sliding around, we're going to insert and into the same stitch, and then we're going to tie a knot. Kind of push that towards the back so you can't see it. So I'm just going to go through the center of both braids in whatever position I want them in. So through one braid, through the next braid, and that way it doesn't move. And I'll tie a knot. Okay? And then I'm gonna flip this over weave through the back side, whatever you choose as the back side. And then do the same thing. So go through the last chain and then go through the center of the braids. And then tie a knot. And then make sure that it's on the back. And then this one, I'll double knot. Okay? So that's one banner, or one flag attached. I'll snip the yarn. And I'll just repeat the process for the rest. Enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that you stick around, and I will be sure to post more tutorials like this, all things crochet and crafts, so I'd love for you to stick around, and I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye!